Hi, I'm Craig Foster. Uh, I've been working in the film industry for over 30 years, 17 of those years working on projects at Pixar Animation Studios. Basically, I put graphics in films. So that's what I like to say. I make fake graphics for real movies. One of the things when I was putting this together, I was trying to go through my process and I was thinking that it's a lot like sailing a boat, right? We want to all work together, doing the right things to maintain momentum and steerage. But then I started thinking about all the times I've been sailing and how things can just go horribly wrong if the crew's not all working together. And then where's my place in that? And that's generally me up there, like, please, let's get this going. Like, can we get it back on track? And that's not what I wanted to present. That's not who I see myself as when I'm on a team. So I tried to break it down into just the basics, who I report to and my goal of getting director approval. So production designer, graphic artist, director. And I get an assignment, do my exploration, research development, put it into a pipeline of approvals. But it seemed pretty simple, but then I started thinking, am I misremembering the process? And then I was drawing upon a friend of mine once made a graph on how complicated it can be. And in reality, it ends up looking a lot like this when you're trying to find the right look, trying to stay on your deadlines. New deadlines are coming in, stories are changing and everything, and you're just trying to get to that director's approval. So I thought, what's my personal process? So there's me, Craig Foster, graphic art director. I generally have a team. Size varies upon project. This was Cars 3. And what I like to do is give the team individual assignments that they can follow and be responsible of that make up the whole part of the project. So they'll be in charge of a set and a sequence, doing their exploration, research, development, getting it in front of a director, and as an art director, sharing the information that I receive from reviews, director, so forth. But I'm able to more manage smaller projects as opposed to throwing everything into one batch and trying to keep it all together. So based on that and how I like to set up a team, I thought I would talk to the people that I report up to, being the art director, myself, then production designer, and director. Now, luckily, having worked at Pixar for as long as I have, I've worked with two people, director and production designers, Ralph Eggleston and Noah Klochek, on the films you see here, Incredibles, Ratatouille, WALL-E, Up, Toy Story 3, Inside Out, and Toy Story 4. On top of that, they've worked on Toy Story for the Birds, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo, Brave, Coco. And all of these films together have one thing in common, winning an Oscar, which in our industry is considered a top award for film. So based on everything that we talked about and notes I gathered from them, I came up with this list. And it kind of sums up the way I like to try to run a project and goes into the bigger scope of everything coming together to get it out into the world. So these are giving your team a sense of ownership, respecting the work that others are putting in, finding something about the project you or someone can care about. No work is wasted. Everything is a step in achieving the final goal. The schedule may change, but the information to the team has to be consistent. If you don't understand what's happening in other departments, get away from your desk and walk around and visit. Get to really know the other teams. Recognizing your team's strengths and not playing to their weaknesses. And reconstructing the team. So based on those, tried to take examples from projects that I've worked on, finding something about the project you or someone you know cares about. So for me, that was working on Cars 2. I was walking through an airport and I saw this little kid having a really struggling with traveling. And his parents were saying, you know, it's okay. You've got McQueen. And it really like settled this little kid. And it just seemed how much it impacted him having this character that, you know, we put out in the world and he was perceiving as real. It kind of took me out. And I was like, wow, there's this bigger scope of things. We get so vested in the project and what we're working on, we kind of tend to forget about, you know, all the people that we're feeding down the pipeline, that are building upon it, and also the people that are receiving enjoyment from it. So I try to make sure the team always remembers, everything that we're touching is just a small part of this bigger picture. And so many people are putting in so much work and trying to do their best, from the, you know, various consumer goods. You know, if people like Legos, we're in there putting graphics on those toys. The actual museum events and exhibits, and, you know, like kids that go to those. So just trying to find something about the project that you can really be proud of. Give your team a sense of ownership. So like I was saying, I like to give the team assignments that they can drive, monitor, and report progress on. So I kind of see art directing as helping the team find solutions as opposed to telling them what I want and how I want it to look. So in the case of Finding Dory, we have an office, as opposed to just saying to the artist, like, hey, I need some posters, I need some paperwork, just fill up this space. I want to create a sense of ownership and really get them in there and thinking about what we're trying to say. Like, this, what's this person do in this office? How should the graphics frame the shot so that the area of interest is what's supported through our art, but our art's not taking away from it. So just being in there and having that sense of ownership. You know, another example is in Up. Carl goes to a travel agency to buy a ticket to go to South America. So as opposed to just saying posters, brochure, something on the door, really trying to help sell the shot, because it's quick, but we want it to have an emotional impact, and also people feel that this place really exists. So you end up with something like this. Not something like this, actually this. So all about the ticket, but where he got it from. And even things like in Cars 3, when we went all around America, is assigning things, if there's a place where maybe an artist was from, that they could own that area, bring their emotional authenticity to it. Like, what did you remember about growing up in the Midwest or the East? And bring that to the graphics so the audience really, really relates. Then we had the respect the work of others that are putting into it. So the project's made up of many teams. We create the main story points for the feature, but within that, there's other groups that are doing all the international translations, taking the art and recreating it for other regions. Like in Up, or in Inside Out, when Riley's watching a hockey game, that's what the US markets are seeing. But for international, there's a whole team of animators and shaders and graphics people turning that into a soccer event. And then even as the film leaves the studio and goes out into the real world, we have our press and marketing, TV commercials, airplane wraps, toys, branding for stores, and just all the things that go into it. I always try to remind myself and the team that we're just a small part of all the important steps in making our project the best it can be, and everyone else is trying the best they can as well. And you know, we're just all working towards that same goal. We've got no work is wasted. Everything is a step in achieving the final goal. This is a big one because it can, for my group, people could feel like they're putting in work that is not being appreciated and not used, when in reality, it's being used to help drive the story forward, to be the best it can be. So in the case of Toy Story 4, we had this playground where a major event happens, and we wanted to make look as real as possible. So as graphics people, we go in and try to put graphics on everything we see, like in a real world situation. So when the audience sees it, that environment's telling a story and they believe it exists because of all the attention to detail. So we're going to name it. We're going to do a school bus. We're going to have the summer camp, playground area. And then the main scene, when Bo and Woody meets, we have this t-shirt that just, to us, is like a billboard, you know, in the scale in relation to our characters. So we're really going to want to put something on there. So we set up assignments, come up with a summer camp, a reason for all these kids to be there, do the research, give the director options. We did all this branding for the town. So I had this idea that maybe it's based on the town seal, which was this rooster riding on an armadillo's back. You can kind of see that in the circle in the center. Pitched an idea to the director that in 1886, there was a wagon train going across the United States, and they came across this rooster riding on an armadillo's back. And the leader of the group says, "Stop, this is where we're going to live." And the wagon train says, "Why? There's nothing here." And he goes, "But if these two can live in peace, so can we." And that's where the town of Grand Basin comes from. So we have story, we have branding, a lot of effort going into selling this town. So we get the idea that should be the summer camp. So one of the artists makes this really great little kids version of the town seal. But when I get everything in there, I have to look back at the story and what we're trying to deliver. And it's all about Woody, our character Woody, going across this playground, aiming for a Ferris wheel that he's using as a point of reference to get back to the antique shop where Bo Peep is at. So once I put everything in, we talk about the scene and how all of this is actually drawing away from Woody's goal. There's way too much information. And if I put that graphic on a shirt, it actually distracts from what's important to the viewer to focus on, which is Bo and Woody coming together. So I need to then go in and tell the director and the production designer that I think I need to take out all the graphics to make our product better, which, you know, could be rough for the person that's created all these things, but it wasn't wasted. It was actually part of the development to get us to where we needed to go. And we can put those things in the film elsewhere to help sell the look, but just not where we had intended them to be. So none of the work is actually wasted. The schedule may change, but the information to the team needs to be consistent. This is kind of like the no work is wasted, but a little different because as the team comes, or as the information comes down, if it's not shared, it can really affect team cohesion and trust. If the emails are just stacking up and people aren't getting notes and they're continuing working on old assignments and deadlines that I haven't shared with them. So if I get the note that the brief has changed or a story point has changed, I let my team know as soon as possible. So in this example, we had the town of Grand Basin. The family that's going on their road trip needed to have a reason to go to Grand Basin. So I had this idea, and it was in the story, that there would be a festival. So I came up with this branding, civic groups, town committees that would be putting on a fundraiser to raise money for the town. And based on that, I pitched the Hamboree, Festival of Ham. And they'd have this little thespian from the local theater, Little Hamlet, dressed up as a walk around, little mascot and everything. Then everything that would be used for hats, banners, t-shirts, flyers, and get that all in there. And as we're going, the decision was made that it shouldn't be a festival, but something more generic, because it's all about the family and the toys, not so much the event. So it was decided to change the direction. And what had happened is the artist, helped in that decision to change direction. And we were part of that decision. So I like letting the team know that it wasn't made from the top down just as a whim, like, oh, let's change it from a festival to a carnival, but that it was a considered decision and that the artist was part of that. And so then we ended up with this scene here. Get the Grand Basin, short reveal of the town. And there's our new carnival days, removing all of the previous work, but coming up with something better. If you don't understand what is happening in other departments, get away from your desk and sit with them to see how they work. So, simple example of this is I go down and I like to set up a remote desk where I can sit with my shading team or characters or sets, like once a week, if not more, while we're in production. And in a situation like this, I get an antique cash register. And what I'm going to do is my research, create the graphics, then hand it off to the shader, where they're going to do their it's amazing magic and turn it into this beautiful antique cash register. But as we're there, I realize I need more information for the window that shows the money and everything. So generally, I would send out a note saying we need a modeling change. A modeler would add more detail. We'd get it in review, look at it, and things would it would create more of a cycle. So by sitting with the shader, I was able to just make basically a sticker that looks like the window. We stuck it in, saw it looked in the shot, and we thought, wow, that's actually good enough. So based on just that interaction, we were able to push that further into the pipeline for creating like lamps and so forth. And so as opposed to modeling all these different planes and like the stained glass or the holes in like this hanging lamp, we were able to come up with a method that was much faster and resulted in a big saving in time and budget. So when we got into the big reveal in the antique store, that process of just sitting with them and doing like a 15-minute exercise resulted in this look. So a lot of hands going in, but really worked out well. So recognize each team member strengths and don't limit them to their weaknesses. This is kind of, again, based on my sailing experience, is if, I've got someone that isn't good at driving a boat. They're at the helm and they're steering it horribly. I'm not going to berate them on how bad they are. I'm going to find a position they can handle and maybe excel at. Like, hey, can you be port lookout? We really need to make sure we don't hit anything and make sure there's no danger out there. So what I do is I go through a film, I spot all the sequences and find what graphics are going to be needed to support the story. So like in Cars 3, I had a range from the 40s to the 2000s. So even though the graphics team are really talented artists, I made sure the talents fit, the assignments fit their talents. So like for hand painted graphics, I did get someone who was really good for that. For museum in the film, someone who might have had museum display curation so that it looks real to the viewer. Merchandise design, consumer goods. I wouldn't, even though the motion graphics person might do the really great hand painted sequences, making sure that they can just show off their talents doing the motion graphics for the big stadiums and sizzle reels. So in something like this, all the banners going across, little bumpers. So just that everyone can really just show their talents. Then reconstruct the team. Like I was saying, it's a little different than like if someone's having a hard time or they're struggling, moving them into another area. It's more bringing people in to inspire your team. So I like to reach out to other departments to utilize their talents and their unique takes on our assignments. Or have an artist within my team take on a different aspect of applying the graphics to what we need. So like in this case for Monsters University, having an artist actually do the model packets and showing how things are going to look, what materials will be used, before even putting the graphics onto the models. And one thing, fast example from Wally, is reaching out to the character department who do amazing 3D work and amazing shading, but to have them help out on a lot of the branding and commercials that happen in the Axiom. And it brought a different look that we weren't really pursuing when we were doing it within the graphics department, and inspired us to push forward with our own ideas. And they came up with all these really cool, 3D graphics that we ended up then making into holographic displays, as you'll see coming up in this shot right here. So that's basically a really quick rundown on my process of giving your team a sense of ownership, respecting the work of others, finding something about the project you care about. No work is wasted. Schedule may change, but information needs to be consistent. Getting away from your desk, talking to other departments, embracing your team's strengths, and reconstructing the team. I hope you found all this process interesting. It sounds, when I say it all out loud, simpler than it feels when you're doing it. But, as we say, we're all working together to make the best product we can, and every department's important. And that's Craig Foster's take on the filmmaking pipeline. So thank you, and hope you enjoy the rest of this summit. Bye.